Crowd Scene.
This is Crowd Scene, the show about successful crowdfunding campaigns and the people who make them happen. I'm Michael Ogden.
And I'm Peter Dean.
The world of graphic novels is a fascinating scene for budding entrepreneurs and storytellers. Certainly the massive success of Marvel comic adaptations into blockbuster films has demonstrated the mainstream appeal for comic books. In this episode, Pete and I get some insights into what it takes to create and crowdfund an original comic book as we speak to writer Ryan O'Sullivan and editor Neil Gibson about their work Turncoat and their recent and very successful campaign on Kickstarter. As always, top tips for crowdfunding will be shared at the end of the show, but before we join Ryan and Neil to hear their story, let's have a quick look at the news.
I have a scandalous story for you this week, Mike.
Ooh, juicy.
One type of product that always seems to raise bags of money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo is 3D printers. So I want to talk about a product called the Peachy Printer, which back in 2013 was a phenomenal success on Kickstarter. It was billed as the first $100 3D printer.
Oh, that's a bargain.
It's a tiny little box, and it sounded absolutely incredible. More than 4,000 backers raised about 650,000 Canadian dollars, which I think is about $500,000 US. So a lot of money, a lot of backers, and that was back in 2013.
And so now everyone's got these things in their home and they're printing up objects and everyone's happy. Is that right?
That's right. And that's the end of the news.
Yay. Happy ending story.
That's not right. That's not what happened at all. So, it seems that there are often problems when you're manufacturing something, particularly when there are companies that haven't manufactured something before and they kickstart it. And it's always those products that overpromise and underdeliver, I think. So it's probably no surprise to hear that 3.5 years later, those 4,000 backers still haven't received what they paid for. Oh. So that's pretty frustrating, but that's not actually the story.
Okay. What's the real story?
Well, something much, much worse has happened with this project. In an update posted to backers just a few days ago, Ryan Grayston, the CEO of Peachy Printer, revealed to backers that something terrible happened during the last year that he didn't know about. It turns out that his financial manager, a guy called David Bowe, embezzled about half the money, that's about $320,000, a year ago, and used it to build himself a brand new house.
Oh, whoa! Did he 3D print it?
Funnily enough, no, he didn't, because no one had invented that little 3D printer. But that would have been good. So it's just terribly embarrassing. So no one knew about this, apart from the guy that embezzled it, of course. There were photos, all over the internet of this guy's brand new house, this nice large house that he's built himself. So Ryan Grayston, the CEO, interviewed David Bowe, the guy who embezzled all this money, on YouTube, and it makes for deeply uncomfortable viewing.
Wait, he interviewed him having known what went down?
This is a backer update. It's basically saying to the backers, look, this guy right here on camera stole your money. Wow. He's video shamed this guy. And this guy, the thief, is just sitting there looking incredibly embarrassed. And
so in this interview, did he have any kind of defense?
His only defense was that he hoped no one would notice, because it was his intention to pay back the money before anyone noticed.
Oh boy!
And in fact, the problem came around because this was the first product this company had made. They weren't really a proper company and hadn't incorporated before the Kickstarter happened. Right. So all the money, that $650,000, all went into the personal account of David Bowe.
Oh, right.
That's where
temptations began.
Exactly.
Well, what they ought to do is just have their 4,000 backers, come to a massive pool party, barbecue, some kind of payback.
You mean just burn through the other 320,000?
Well, they should have it at his house. He should have an open house.
No, better than that. Shouldn't they each have a stake in his house? Own some of the equity.
Everyone gets a room.
I'm not sure he built a 4,000 room house.
And where do they go from there? What's next?
What can you do? I don't know.
So is that they're not going to be delivering anything to their backers?
I think there's a pretty decent chance that will be the outcome, yeah.
Is it a nice house?
I don't think it's finished yet, based on the photos.
You know what they ought to do is they ought to run another Kickstarter, finish the house.
Yes, at the very least, yeah.
If If you have some crowdfunding news you'd like to share with us, write to us at hello@crowdsceneshow.com or tweet to us at crowdsceneshow. Bug Boy, Professor Portal, Concrete Pete. These are some of the characters featured in the cast of the original graphic novel Turncoat, as written and illustrated by Ryan O'Sullivan and Plaid Klaus, and edited by Neil Gibson. Unusually, Ryan and the team completed the entire graphic novel and shared it online with friends and fans long before they took it to Kickstarter.
So, after 2 years in the making, Ryan and his team hoped to raise $18,000 to create a hardcover printed edition of the graphic novel. And 30 days later, more than 800 comic book fans had pledged more than $31,000 to make that happen. So let's find out how they did it. Ryan
O'Sullivan and Neil Gibson, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having us. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you, and congratulations on the success of your campaign.
Thank you very much.
So what you crowdfunded, guys, is a graphic novel, and it's can you describe what your backers would be receiving in the post?
Well, it varies because we had a whole bunch of different rewards, but the key one, the one that most people got, was a copy of Turncoat, the hardback, 168 pages, full colour, beast of a book. And there was a few other rewards as well. We had a T-shirt of Bug Boy, the most important character in Turncoat, central to the story. We had a few other things as well. One of Neil's books, Neil the editor, one of his other books he'd written called Tabitha, that was sent out as well to a few backers that, actually not a few, quite a lot, that wanted to pick it up.
Can you tell us each of you what your roles were on this project? What about you, Neil?
I'm just the editor on this. Ryan wrote a very good script, and Ryan is a name to watch out for in the future. I want to say this publicly. I think in a few years he'll be one of the biggest names in the comic book industry. He has a real natural talent for writing comics, and he really put some thought into it. When he told me the pitch, which was assassin who kills superheroes, only he's crap at it. I just thought that was hilarious right off the bat. And I read the script, and it is absolutely fantastic. So my job was just to take it a little bit extra, just to give it a little bit of assistance to make it be. Still keep it. It's all Ryan's work, the writing. Just make it a little bit better. That was all my job was.
So your job is to help deliver his vision ultimately.
Yes and no. What I love about editing is it's like cooking. You're reliant on the ingredients you have, and Ryan brought some brilliant ingredients to it. But sometimes he was not communicating what he thought he was communicating.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind, before I wrote Turncoat, Neil already had, I think it was 6 or 7 graphic novels to his name. So he's sort of been through the sort of early writer hardships that I was going. Hardships is a bit of an intense word, but that sort of early writer things you go through. So he's helped me through those and sort of shown me where in the script motivation for characters didn't make sense or their ideology. I mean, Neil's biggest strength was as a story editor. He really helped pitch it together and make sure the whole thing seemed coherent. And there were many times I'd give him a script and I'd think, this is brilliant. And, in my head anyway. And the dialogue he'd be laughing at. So I thought, oh, great, nailed it. And he'd go, it's funny, but, what's it about? What's happening? I was like, oh, okay, crap. I've got to go and put a plot in it now. Great.
Ryan, when you guys met, I mean, were you a writer at that point or do you become a writer afterwards?
I was writing comics, but they weren't being published, mainly because I wasn't sending them to publishers, but also because they were terrible.
Now, there's another artist that's part of this team. Ryan, I want to ask you about, is it Plaid Klaus? Is that correct? Is he the artist who worked on Turncoat?
Klaus?
Yes.
He's an American artist living in New York that I met online on comicexperience.com, which is a sort of comic book forum all full of professionals and semi-professionals looking to build a career in comics, like a sort of school for comics, as it were. And we just got chatting, told him about the concept, and he liked it. So I'm blessed in a way that, I mean, I say this all the time. The one thing that I like the most about him is his strong understanding of narrative, because he's an artist who really, really cares about the story.
So let's talk about crowdfunding now. Why did you decide to crowdfund Turncoat?
Well, because we had a lot of people read the comic online, and I thought, and a fair few asked us if we were going to release it as a graphic novel. We talked about it, and we had plans to, me and Klaus, and then we thought we'd give it a go. So I did a few sort of Kickstarter how-to seminars and did a few courses and learned what was an accurate figure to judge. And I did Google Analytics on the website and all the sort of back-end stuff. And it turned out that having put the comic online for 6 months kind of helped us build up a substantial following. And obviously, I could plug into all of Neil's fans from his books as well, which was massively helpful. So it just seemed like the right thing to do, just right place, right time, and it seemed to work out all right.
It seemed to, yeah. So it's an interesting thing that you did. Of course, the entire graphic novel was online and available for anyone to access, and it's huge, high resolution, beautiful illustrations. It's all there. Why do people want a physical copy of that when they can get it for free online?
I think the reason is that when you follow a webcomic, and this applies to Kickstarter as well, I've found, you're not just investing yourself in the story. You're not just investing in the comic. You're also investing in the people that make it. Because we had people that come back, sort of readers that regularly come back and comment on the webcomic every day it went up. I had people messaging me saying, "Oh, is so-and-so character dead? Is he really? Oh, that sucks." No one got angry with me, but they were passionate about it. And then when we did the Kickstarter, that's why the video that I made for it, rather than have it be full of jokes or try like some slow moving art with a badass overtone voice, it was just me and a camera talking honestly about the book. And I think that actually contributed towards the success, because people invest in people. I mean, like, why else? If you've read the entire comic online, why would you then go and buy the book? It's because you invested in it. You invested in the people that have made it, and it's community, I suppose.
I'd actually like to disagree with Ryan on this point. I think everything you said is true and accurate, but a fact about comics is that digital sales of books now on Amazon now outnumber print sales, and digital sales cannibalize print sales of books. They don't with comics. Digital sales increase physical copies of comics. There's something about comics. People like flicking through the pages, looking at the art and touching it.
I think with graphic novels, that's definitely true.
Why did you choose Kickstarter for this project?
It has the most traffic. It has the most people on it. It's a place where you could find casual support. I'm assuming that the people that run Kickstarter know what they're doing when it comes to getting casual non-Kickstarter people to be able to sign up and give their money quickly. Half of the people that back Turncoat had never been on Kickstarter before, so the website does something right in terms of making it easy to use. Well,
you bring up an interesting point, Ryan. In your video, one thing I found really interesting that I hadn't really seen before was that you actually walked people through the process of backing a project, literally with screenshots, a step-by-step guide to backing you, exactly what it is and how you do it.
If you remember when Kickstarter first came out, that was in every video. And I think somewhere along the line, because we've become so used to using Kickstarter, we think we don't have to explain it to people. But when you consider that a huge number of people backing your book will just be friends and family who've never used Kickstarter before, or even strangers that have never used Kickstarter before, you need to show them how it's done. Otherwise, they'll just read it and be like, "Oh, it looks a bit complicated. I'll do it later." And then, of course, later never comes. No matter how well-intentioned they are, life has a habit of getting in the way. So I just thought step-by-step instructions, make it completely straightforward to do. And that way people aren't emailing me as well, asking me how to do it, which is, I say that, some people did.
Is there something that you guys did not know going into this that you had to get good at?
The regularity of project updates is something I wasn't too sure about. In the first week, it's, spam everyone, they'll forgive you sort of thing. But after that, I was like, okay, once a day, great. Oh, crap, half the people following it in the US, half are in the UK. Do I do one for the UK and one for the US? That's 2 a day. But then the actual, within the Kickstarter, the updates itself, I didn't know how much was acceptable, because my inbox is full of Kickstarter projects I've backed, and I get so many updates, I don't read them. But then other people don't think like me, so I wasn't sure. That was one thing I think I need to still do some more research on and figure out what would be appropriate, because I wanted it to feel like it was a journey we were all on together. So daily updates would have been okay because people would want to know how it's doing. But at the same time, if people are kind enough to give me their money, that's not license for me to annoy them every single day. So it's a tough one. It's to find a balance.
So put us in the room right before you went live. Where were you? What were the nerves like? Were you nervous before you went live?
Yes, he was very nervous.
I don't get nervous.
What's the story, Neil?
Well, I was nervous. What the hell? Yeah, it was good nerves though, because I think that allowed me to. Here's the thing with nerves; they make you incredibly paranoid, so you cover every single angle. And
what did you see, Neil? Was Ryan sweating it?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't like this.
Absolutely. And he's like constantly checking things. But look, Ryan did a great job on both the comic and running the Kickstarter, as the results show.
Yes. So your campaign goal was $18,000. Where did that number come from?
Well, I wanted to have a number that was high enough for people to keep, because here's the thing. If you there's always the temptation to set it really low so that you make sure you get the money. Like, if I set it for $3,000, I'll definitely get the cash. But I wanted to have like a movement behind it where I could be constantly saying to people, no, because we're going to print a lot of these and it costs a lot to put it together and advertise it. So we wanted to say, have a big number so that it would be, day 3, we're still not there yet. Week 2, we're almost there. And so that people would constantly share with their friends and help you out, and it would become like a sort of a movement, a community. Fortunately, we got all our backing in 6 days, so maybe I should have made it higher.
What did you find was the most effective way to get the word out and bring backers to your campaign page?
The most effective way was definitely having a webcomic for 6 months prior to launching. So if you're going to do a comic on Kickstarter, put it all online, drip feed it online, do it over a period of months. Use Project Wonderful and other sorts of advertising sites to get the word out. Message everyone you can. Don't ever think that you don't know someone well enough. I've had a few people bid stupid amounts of money that I didn't really know that well, and that wouldn't have happened if I'd thought, I don't know them well enough. Reaching out to if you're doing comics, and I suppose if people are listening to this and they're doing other Kickstarters or other things, reach out to industry professionals. As I said, I was a member of Comic Experience, and there's quite a few comic professionals on there. I know a few through Neil, and I know a few myself. So I sort of reached out to everyone I could, and a bunch of people read the book. Most of them liked it, and some of them even were kind enough to say good words.
And would you say that most people who backed the campaign had already read Turncoat?
I don't know. A lot of it was friends backing it.
800 friends, that's a lot.
Some of it was my friends backing it and family, and I'm not sure if they read it. I'm still sure my dad hasn't read it, bastard. But I don't
know. Come on, Dad. How personal has this project become for you, Ryan?
Huge. It's corny to say, but it's a dream come true. First comic out with a collaborator, with a bunch of collaborators, I should say, that were incredible to work with. It's allowed me to get into the comic industry. The first of many books I hope. I'm immensely proud of it. And a lot of the time you look back at your stuff you've written and you think, I could have done better. And you're always going to think that. But I'm still very happy with how the book is, how it looks, how it reads, and hopefully soon how it feels.
We'll be back in just a moment, but first let's hear about an upcoming guest. You may already have heard of the YouTube phenomenon Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, a series of short films that have been viewed 100 million times. What's unique is that the films initially look like children's shows, but always descend into mind-bending terror, like a nightmare on Sesame Street. After making waves on YouTube, the team behind the show turned to Kickstarter to raise enough money to make more episodes. Our guest next time on Crowdscene is Ben Lowell, a London-based creative producer and part of the team that makes the show. In 29 days, they crowdfunded more than £100,000. How did they do it? Subscribe to Crowdscene on iTunes or any podcast app and find out in our next episode. Now let's hear more from Ryan O'Sullivan and Neil Gibson talking about their Kickstarter success with the graphic novel Turncoat.
What surprised you about running the campaign?
What surprised me actually was that the support didn't come from one place. It came from my friends in the comic industry. It came from my family. It came from old school friends. It came from people I didn't know that well that backed it. It came from fans of the comic. It came from fans of Neil's work. Fans of Klaus's work as well, obviously. It came from all over the place. And I had such a huge amount of support. And the inability to pin it down in one place makes me realize that my network was actually either a lot bigger than I thought or exactly what I thought, but the comic just seemed to fluke it.
One thing that surprised me was the predictions. So, because Ryan showed me two different websites that were predicting. When you fill that in?
One was called Kick Track, spelled with a Q, and the other one I think was called Sidekick. And each day, one would say when we're going to make. I think on day one, Kick Track said we were going to make $100,000, and Sidekick said we were going to make nothing. And they eventually met in the middle.
And Neil, watching the campaign unfold, are there things that you've taken from the experience that you would apply to your work or to your own comics or comic publishing?
Well, yes, actually, because Ryan's inspired me. So I've actually got a new comic called Theatrics with Leonardo Gonzalez. We've got the first 4 chapters done. We're just putting together the 5th one, and I was just going to put this out as a graphic novel when it's done. But Ryan's inspired me to release this as a webcomic to get more awareness for it, and hopefully to help kickstart it so we could to fund the printing of it as well. So that was a big learning thing for me, and I'm going to probably have to listen to every single one of your podcasts to get tips and ideas to run the Kickstarter well.
That was one thing I didn't mention before when you asked what I'd done. I actually listened to a lot of your podcasts, and they had a lot of good advice in. So hopefully ours will match up to the
Good
best.
man, Ryan.
Fantastic.
Ryan, might you return to the Turncoat universe?
Please do it.
I have been getting asked this a fair bit, and the important thing, in indie comics, you shouldn't really do volume 2s, and the reason why is sales just aren't there. I'd be interested in doing a spin-off, perhaps, as a standalone thing that works. I don't know. I've told the story that I was there to tell. I'd be interested in doing more stories set in that world, perhaps, but they would definitely be standalone stuff.
Any aspirations for this to turn into a film, or this is meant for the comic book medium?
Well, I wrote it as a comic because I like comics, and I didn't write it so that I could pitch it anywhere.
Right.
But if there was to be any interest in it, then yeah, I'd have no problem with it. I mean, I think it'd be kind of cool as a cartoon on Netflix or something.
That's what I was thinking. I think it'd be hilarious as an animation.
Ryan, you ran a great campaign. What advice do you have for anyone out there who wants to start their own campaign? Can you give us your tips for crowdfunding success?
Sure. My biggest tip for anything, especially comics, but possibly everything, is in the Kickstarter you have what's called the story, which is where, underneath the video you have all of the literature. The thing at the very top should be either a photograph of what the product looks like or a digital mock-up. You've got to show people what they're going to buy. It's got to be it's got to look like a physical thing. That more than anything else, really, really, when people see something, they believe it. It's just that straightforward. It makes you seem more believable, and so people are more likely to give you money. It's a trust thing.
That makes sense.
The other things I'd recommend would be pre-campaign. A Kickstarter success isn't dictated even during the Kickstarter. It's dictated long before that. How well known you are, if you've got a community around you, if you've put it online, if you've paid for advertising, however you get the word out. I'm not going to go into a sort of how-to marketing spiel right now, but it's the pre-campaign that's important. 6 months to a year before you even launch the thing. And that's as much about you as a brand, to make it all sort of TED Talk. It's about as much you as a brand as it is about the actual book itself or whatever you're doing. In terms of other stuff, I mean, I mentioned before reaching out to everyone you know. I think that's super important. I was on Facebook the entire day messaging people. I didn't spam anyone. I made sure that each message was a sort of unique individual one. So I think that's very important. One thing that's quite good is actually, the video. That's what I was going to say. I was just trying to think. The last thing was make the video about you. Don't be funny. Don't try and make it badass. Don't try and make it different. Just make it personal. You are asking people to give you money to fund something which is kind of a vain thing to do. So you've got to be incredibly humble about it. You can't be Mr. Cool and when you're shooting it. You can't be, hey, look how funny I am. Because, your friends and family might find it funny and you think they're the ones that are going to support you. But strangers might just think you're an idiot. So you have to be very careful.
I would like to caveat this, and that's that Ryan is a very funny writer, as if you interpret, you'll find out. But in real life, he's not funny. So, in
fact, Turncoat's books weren't funny. That's why I needed Neil as an editor. He put all the jokes in.
Neil added the jokes, right?
And the dialogue and the art. Neil did everything. I hate him. I'm just here riding his coattails.
So what's been the most effective way to build your audience, Neil, over the years?
By far and away, the best method is social media. Unfortunately, I suck at it. It's not something I normally choose to go on. I have to force myself to use Twitter and Facebook. I wouldn't use it, but you have to as a creator, I believe, in this day and age. That is the most effective tool. But what I found the best method is, because this is conventions. That's meeting people, meeting fans, and talking to their conventions. That's the most effective way for me, because I like talking to people about comics. And when they come to our stall, even if they don't like our stuff, I generally ask people if they like comics, what do they like reading? And I try and suggest material that I think they will enjoy, because I want more people to experience the medium. I have a genuine passion and love for the medium. I think it's the most efficient medium that exists for communicating, which I can explain if you want to, but then I won't shut up.
So I wouldn't mind a quick version of that if that's possible, Neil.
Sure. Okay, so there's so many ways to tell a story. You can do it through dance, through books, through poetry, through someone talking, through theater, through film. With someone speaking, you run the danger of someone speaking too quickly, or worse, too slowly, which drives me mad. With a book, you get the full advantage of going at your own pace. the comics is perfectly situated in between those two, because you get to go at your own pace like books and absorb as much information as little as you want. But a picture says 1,000 words. You can skip so much information and absorb it instantly. And like the body language someone has, you get so much information from that, which you'd have to describe in prose text or try or see it in real life. Whereas comics, I think just the blend of best of both worlds is phenomenal. It is just a medium. Just because I like comics doesn't mean I love superheroes. Mm-hmm. I like good stories. You take a film, whatever film that comes out, some people love it, some people hate it. So if you try and appeal to everyone, you're going to fail, and you should not try to do that. I believe you should try to target a certain audience. And I know a lot of writers, for the different types of titles they have, they think of a particular person they know and they write for them. Mm-hmm. Like I know what jokes my mum will laugh at. Mm-hmm. It's different from the sort of jokes my dad would laugh at. And so I can tailor the jokes for them. When you're writing, you can do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, comics is great because the audience doesn't imagine as much. Because if you read a novel or whatever else, the pictures are in your head. Mm-hmm. Whereas in a comic, the pictures are on the page. That gives you a lot of room to play with certain things. But one thing that I found is, I mean, when it comes to anything writing-wise, your audience tends to find you. It's not, you don't. I think the stuff that I don't like is when I read something and I can tell it's made for a certain age group or gender or what have you.
Mm-hmm. Guys, before we wrap up, it's time for what we call guest picks, and which is where our guest tells us about another crowdfunding campaign that they think is awesome for whatever reason they like. So what have you got for us?
Okay, well, we've already plugged Neil's theatrics twice.
Well done, Neil.
Just to be clear, everybody else after, we plugged Neil's Gibson theatricscomic.com. But to be a little bit less, mercenary about it, there's two things I want to plug. Right. One is a Kickstarter that's already finished by a friend of mine called Chris Lewis. That's called Karma Police. Mm-hmm. That's I can't even begin to give you the elevator pitch for it. It's a crazy book. It looks really good.
It's a great title, though. I like that. Karma Police.
It's Karma Police. The other one is a Kickstarter that's going to be starting, I think, in about a month or so by a friend of mine called Ram Ben Katterson, and it's called Black Mamba. And that is, it's called Mumbai Noir is the genre. So I'm incredibly excited to
Did you say Mumbai Noir?
So, Mumbai Noir, yeah. I've never heard of that, but that's what it is.
Well, you know what it means, right?
I know what it means.
Okay.
I mean, don't ask me, we're on a podcast, but I definitely know what it means. But yeah, those are the ones I'd recommend because they're both incredible writers, and the artists they've got working on it are just phenomenal. So
I'm just curious for you two, the term graphic novel or comic book, does it matter? Are these interchangeable?
It doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, the reason graphic novel exists was so that grown-ups could buy comics without feeling like children. But it's like, I mean, it sounds weird, like a graphic novel. What? It's full of porn or something. It's just, it's
this is true. I went into Foyle's bookstore. This is back before I started making comics, and I said, "Hi, I'd like to buy some graphic novels, please." And they took me to the porn section.
And how many books did you buy there, Neil?
Yeah, he walked out in an armload.
Thanks very much, guys. Just what I was looking for.
What I do know about you as well is that you've been at comic conventions and fans have come up with tattoos of your characters on their bodies. Is that correct?
Yeah, got some good research. Yes, that's true.
That must.
I remember I found out about this actually. Someone came with a tattoo of one of the covers of one of Neil's books.
Oh, don't. Oh, no. Okay. I guess. Yeah.
Do you not want to say this?
No, go and tell the story.
Okay.
Do.
Well, essentially, Neil released online on social media a copy of what the mock-up of one of the covers was going to look like for one of his books. And someone came along to the show and they had a tattoo of the cover on one of their arms. And unfortunately, that wasn't the cover Neil ended up using. So Neil gave the guy a copy of the book, but
I give him free comics for life now. Because he was trying to help. He's so proud. He showed me that. I was like, oh no, that's not the cover we chose to go with in the end. What do I do?
So now that guy is now a limited edition Neil book.
It'll be worth a fortune on eBay.
You both have been really generous with your time. We loved having you on the show. Ryan O'Sullivan and Neil Gibson, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Pete. It's been good talking.
Thank you. Where can people go online to find out about Turncoat?
You go to turncoatcomic.com and you should be able to find all the information you need there.
And Ryan, you're on Twitter and Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter as Ryan O'Sullivan.
And Neil, where can people follow you?
If you follow me on Twitter, it's @twistedneil.
And of course, we all know that Theatrics is just out, so look for that on TPub. Is that right?
Is it? Is Theatrics out? Oh, wow. Where can I find it? Theatricscomic.com. Oh, thanks.
Hey, we wish you all the best for the future with Turncoat.
Thanks a lot, guys.
So you've been listening to Crowd Scene, the show about successful crowdfunding campaigns and the people who make them happen. Our big thanks to Ryan and Neil for their time and insights in this episode.
To find out more about Turncoat, please visit turncoatcomic.com. And to get in touch or hear about upcoming guests on this podcast, please follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Crowd Scene Show.
If you enjoy the podcast and would like us to make more, a great way to support the show is to write a review on iTunes. Just takes a second and helps us reach more listeners. Thanks.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Crowd Scene on iTunes or any other podcast app.
Our thanks to Kim Bookbinder for Crowd Scene's theme music. To find out more about Kim, visit her at kimbookbinder.com. So until next time, from Mike, from Pete, thanks for listening.
Crowd Scene, gonna kick it with Pete and Mike. Crowd Scene, interviews behind the hype. Crowd Scene, Crowd Scene. What do you do? What do you say to make crowdfunding go your way? Crowd Scene, Crowd Scene. Crowd Scene, Crowd Scene, Crowd Scene. Your shake brings all the backers to the yard.
That's why I call epic.